Tubaniriza ku Highfield Think Tank TV Kasoma Farouk of Uganda. Lero tugenda kola deep analysis why the sovereignty bill is bad for Uganda. Tugamba, Uganda's proposed and now partially passed protection of sovereignty bill is controversial because critics argue it may weaken democracy, damage economy. Tugamba nti sovereignty bill esobola okuweakeninga democracy n'okudamaginga ebyenfuna and centralize political power under the language of protecting sovereignty. Supporters say it is needed to stop foreign interference. Abaliwagira bagamba liriwo kubeera nga listoppinga foreign interference. But opponents believe the law is drafted so broadly that it can easily be used against ordinary citizens. Etteeka lino lireetebwa okubeera nga likolebwa likosa by ordinary citizens, NGOs, journalists, opposition groups, and even Ugandans abroad. Tugenda kulaba deep analysis why many analysts, economists, lawyers, civil society groups, and opposition leaders believe the bill is bad for Uganda. Tugamba, the bill uses vague language that can criminalize dissent. One of the biggest concern enkulu is zigamba the bill's wording around promoting foreign interests or acting against Uganda's interests. Critics say these phrases are extremely broad and subjective. A government can interpret them, however, it wants a journalist, for example, exposing corruption with the support from an international media grant could be accused of promoting foreign interests. A targeting a journalist, exposing a corruption, ali mu government, nga ali supported by international media grant, aba asobola to be interpreted as someone who is promoting foreign interest. NGO criticizing election irregularities could be labeled anti-sovereignty. Ne NGO criticizing election irregularities esobola okuba labeled anti-sovereignty. Opposition politicians aba working with diaspora supporters could face the criminal penalties. Opposition politicians basobola facing criminal penalties. Human rights groups argue that this creates a legal weapon against criticism of the state. Nti buli anagezaako criticizing a state lineteeka ebanga legal weapon. The concern is not only what the law says today, but how future governments could use it. That's our concern. Ekirala, it threatened constitutional freedoms. Tugamba Uganda Constitution guaranteeing freedom of speech, freedom of association, eddembe ly'okwogera, eddembe ly'okugenda mu association gy'oyagala, political participation, access to information, and civic engagement. Legal analysts argue the bill conflicts with these rights. Tulaba bill conflicting ne rights z'abantu, because it creates fear around receiving foreign funding or collaborating internationally. Creating a fear abantu basobola okutya receiving foreign funding or collaborating internationally. The Global Network of Domestic Election Monitors warned that the bill could suppress election observers and civic organizations that help ensure transparency during elections. Bill eno esobola okubeera nga suppressinga by election observers and civic organizations. Critics say sovereignty in a democracy belongs to citizens, not the ruling elite. Kino kitegeeza citizens balina okubeera free to organize, criticize leaders and cooperate globally without being treated as security threats. Ekirala, it could seriously damage Uganda's economy. Tugamba ebyenfuna bya Uganda bisobola okuba affected. This is one of the strongest arguments against the bill. Even the Bank of Uganda warned that Parliament warned the parliament that the law could weaken the shilling. Nti etteeka lisobola okuweakeninga shilling, lisobola okureducinga foreign exchange inflows, lisobola okuscaringa ba investors, lisobola okuhatinga reserves. Uganda heavily depends on diaspora remittance, donor support, foreign direct investments, NGO activity, and international financial flows. The central bank governor reportedly warned that a country without reserves is not sovereign, that a country without reserves is not sovereign. So that statement cuts to the heart of the issue. A poor country cannot isolate itself economically without consequences. Ensi enjavu tesobola ku isolating itself economically nga tefunye consequences. Ekirala, the bill risks frightening away investors. Tugamba foreign investors prefer countries with predictable laws, open markets, independent institutions, and legal certainty. But the laws that criminalize foreign influence create uncertainty. So tugamba, investors may ask, could our partnership become illegal? Partnerships zaffe tezigenda kuba tezikkirizibwa. Could political tensions target our business? Political tension tesobola okutargetinga business zaabwe. Could funds be frozen? Sente zaabwe ze baleeta zisobola okuteekebwako ekkomo. Could staff be accused of foreign interference? So tugamba that uncertainty raises the perception of political risk. This matters because Uganda, a competing n'ensinga Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, and others for investment capital. So by investors, we were moving toward Uganda were moving toward a more authoritarian or isolationist model. They may simply invest elsewhere. By investors, basobola okudduka. It could isolate Uganda internationally. Critics compare the bill to foreign agent laws used in Russia, China, Hungary, and other authoritarian systems. In many countries, Ghana take sovereignty protection measures, but later became tools to shut down NGOs, suppress media, weaken opposition. Zino laws zikozeseddwa okushatinga down NGOs, okuweakeninga opposition, n'okusilencinga ba activists. Uganda already faces international criticism over electoral repression, military trials citizens. So, adding a restrictive law, chiwaseninga diplomatic relations, increasing sanction risk, nekirala, chihatinga Uganda global image. Ekirala, it targets civil society and NGOs. It targeting civil society and NGOs, so tusobola okuba affected. So tugamba olunaku olwaleero, the sovereignty bill weakens accountability in government, and historically when an accountability institution weaken, accountability institutions bwe ziweakeninga, corruption ajja kweyongera, abuse of power will